All right, here we go. Valerie, so good to be here with you. I'm so excited for our conversation today.
I am too. So excited to be here.
Yeah. So, hi, everyone. I'm Cailen Ascher. I am over at the Self-Led Woman here on Substack, and I'm so excited to have Valerie here with me. I have been diving into her work, and I think we're going to be talking about a lot of topics that are surprising around identity and selfishness and things that I think get a bad rap, more or less, but that actually can be really, really liberating. So, Valerie, did you want to do a quick intro and let people know a little bit more about you?
My name is Valerie Jones. I've been a coach for 11 years. I have a podcast called The Selfish Woman Podcast. My book, you can see over here, my book baby came out last year called The Selfish Year, which is the story of me choosing to be selfish for an entire year in 2020 because I was coming out of a lifetime of selflessness and self-abandonment. And I saw it as an experiment of like, what would happen if a woman was selfish for an entire year? And it changed my whole life. And then I wrote a book about it. And now I work with women who are ready to ditch the people pleasing and ditch being the good girl, and seeing how that has kept them from experiencing the results they want in their life and feeling empowered in their life, and are ready to actually learn how to live from their soul, live from their truth. And what happens when we do that? It's so crazy and magical. And so that's the world that I'm living in and creating. And then I'm here on Substack as well. My Substack is called Identity Crisis, because that's what kind of happens when we realize, like, hang on a second, I think I've been performing most of my life. And like, I'd love to get into that as well.
Yeah. Wow. So much goodness here. And when I came across your Substack and was reading what you were sharing, just like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to her. Myself as a business coach for the last 10 years working with women, identity is such a huge piece of what we how we obviously view ourselves, how we view our capacity to build our businesses, how well we can serve our clients. It's all interwoven. And so I love that you really went counterculture with this. Like, I'm going to have a
Yeah.
selfish year. I want to hear more about that, exactly what that meant and looked like for you, because I think there's such liberation when we shed the labels and shed the expectations. It's also really scary though as well. So talk to me about that year specifically, which kind of I feel like started you on this journey that you've been on ever since.
Mhm. Yeah, so I was in my second marriage, and we'd been married 2 years, and outwardly we had this dream life. We moved to Spain. We were living in Valencia for 2 years. We've been married for 2 years, and we just were living this dream life over there. And my kids had all grown up and moved out, and it was just like, life is awesome. But inside, I was desperately unhappy, and I had so much guilt about that and shame about that, because I'm like, my life looks great on paper. Why am I so unhappy? And everything I knew to do as a coach or someone who's done tons of therapy and read every single book, all my tools, none of that was working. And I was desperately unhappy. And so I got to kind of the end of myself at the end of 2019. And I was sitting there in my beautiful apartment in Spain that we had just moved into, and we'd renovated this gorgeous, apartment in Valencia. And I'm sitting there going, I have built this life and I don't want to be in it. And that's when I felt like I needed to do something radical. And so I had what I call in the book my sofa moment, where I was like laying on the sofa after yet another fight, because the reality was our relationship was not good. And what I found out later was it was emotionally abusive. But so many women who are in emotionally abusive marriages or relationships do not realize that when they're in it, it's so confusing. And you think you're crazy and you think you're the problem. And that's definitely what I was experiencing. And I was laying on that sofa thinking, like, this is the last time I'm going to do this. This is the last time I'm going to lay crying on a sofa because of, my life. And in January of 2020, I met with some girlfriends, and we always met at the beginning of each year and said, what's your word for the year? And I'm like, I don't know. And And as I was about to get on that call, like the days before, this word selfish kept bubbling up. And I was like, I cannot choose that word. That is a dirty word. Everything I've been taught is like, no, the good woman is selfless and puts everyone else first. And, selfish is not it. But the word wouldn't leave me alone. And so I got on that call and I was like, I don't know, my word for the year is selfish. And they were like, cool, I can't wait to find out what happens. And so I embarked on my selfish year, and that was really how it started. And my first selfish act was I bought a one-way ticket back to Vancouver, where I'm from, Canada. And I was like, I just need some space. I'm going to take a little bit of space and time to just like think about what's going on. And then the pandemic happened, and the universe had me right where I was meant to be because I couldn't go back even if I wanted to. And that was really how I started this selfish year was it's not what you think. It's not like spas and, like travel. It was really me sitting alone in a room for a year, dealing with the darkest parts of myself that I'd never wanted to face.
Mm, yeah. Wow. Right. Like it's so true. We have this vision of selfishness as pampering ourselves and, putting ourselves above other people. But really, healing is a selfish act. You have to focus on yourself. You have to take time for yourself. You have to put boundaries up. And it sounds like, you know, by both universal force and personal choice, you landed at the right place at the right time for all of this to come together for you. And did you realize at the time you were going to have such a strong pivot? Like, was it before and after, or was there like a prolonged messy middle as you were navigating all of this?
I mean, there's always the messy middle, isn't there?
Right?
And we never know what we're doing, and we might think we do, but it's never the way we think. And so, yeah, I didn't know what was going to happen, and I was just what I call terrified and excited. And that's, I think, the sweet spot of life where you're like, feel excited, but also freaking out. And let's find out what's going to happen because that's where the growth lies. Right. And so, yeah, I just was like one step at a time of like, and that was really my first realization that I didn't know myself as well as I thought I did because I had to start making decisions and on my own about what am I going to do? Where am I going to stay? What's going to happen? And I realized like I didn't know how to make a decision to save my life. I had abdicated my decision making to everybody else and realized that like if I do that, then I'm not accountable if it doesn't work out. And I can come out of here looking like smelling like a rose. It wasn't my decision. And I realized the sneaky ways that we think we're being a good person or easygoing or laid back. But what we're actually doing is we're avoiding the discomfort of having to do the work to trust ourselves. And, as I redefine selfish, I really see it as like if you are so full of connection to yourself that then you are living from that place. You trust yourself. You know who you really are. And everything you do then comes from alignment instead of performance and fear and worry and anxiety and people pleasing and control and all the ways that we wear the mask to try to do life. And this, for me, this year just really was like ripping all those masks off
Yeah.
and stripping down to the core. And that's the selfish redefinition is like, are you connected at a soul level to yourself? Do you know yourself as well as you think you do? And what if you actually made choices that were right for you? Sometimes that's a choice that we don't want to make, but we know it's right. It's like, I know that I have to fire this person, or and I really don't want to, or I know I have to leave this relationship and it's terrifying, but I know it's right. And
Mhm.
that's the key is it's like, if it's right, it might not be easy. Often it isn't, but that's going to lead you on your path in a way that's so aligned that you can't help but experience what you're meant to experience.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
like for you, like I'm curious if that resonates for you and like how that has shown up for you, the masks that we wear.
yeah. You said that so beautifully. And, I think that's, I mean, the self-led woman, right? We're talking about selfishness, and the title of my Substack's The Self-Led Woman. And
Yeah,
I think it's a similar definition, honestly, when we really look at it, because, and I'm thinking of self with like the capital S, like this,
totally.
the sacred self within, maybe you call it your soul or your inner guide, that when we get to know her and live from that place and allow our work to be an expression of that inner truth, yeah, like the inevitability of things start lining up. I mean, I can only imagine on your journey how, buying that one-way ticket from Spain back home, you never would have guessed it would lead to a book and a coaching career and like all of these amazing things that played out. And I, f- I feel like there's so many moments in our lives, and when we look back, that it requires that leaning in with trust, that leaning in with that self connection, because there's nothing else that really makes sense
Yeah.
around what we're about to do, right? I mean, I had this experience recently where, I had built my business around one very successful offer. I had a ads funnel running, coming into it, and the business was big and growing and making lots of money, but also spending lots of money. And on paper, it looked awesome. It's like all the numbers that you wanted, you're
Yeah.
hitting, all of the things you're doing. And I was like, you know what? My system doesn't feel good. I feel
Mhm.
dysregulated. This feels heavy. This feels like I have to show up as a version of myself to
Mhm.
honor what's coming through the funnel instead of just the the business. I mean, I created it, right? Like this should be something that I love and adore. That's an expression of me. And I mean, you don't necessarily love every little thing you got to do all the time, but in general. And that was terrifying, being like, oh, am I really going to walk away from this offer? Am I going to let half my team go? Am I going to
Yeah.
really make these choices to honor the knowing within myself? Because on paper, it doesn't make any sense. but
Right.
but it feels like a resounding yes inside my body.
Mm.
And still like navigating that in real time, but there's been so many beautiful signs and opportunities and, just amazing things that have started to bloom
Mhm.
because of that challenging, like identity confronting choice.
Oh my gosh, that's such a powerful example because I imagine that it took so much self-trust, right? To say like, I'm going to walk away or let this go, this thing that looks great on paper, because my intuition is saying, do it. And you don't know what's on the other side of that choice.
Yeah. It's, it was both, it was what you said,
They're exciting. They're
terror
exciting.
exciting. That's exactly what it was. It was completely terrifying and also completely liberating. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, I feel so much lighter in my body." I didn't realize how heavy all of this was. Um, but there's still those moments where the fear, like, that
Yeah.
pulls at you, and then you have to bring yourself back to that, like, centered connection with that self
Yeah.
within. Remember that, connect with that. And then I'm like, okay, I'm good. I know I'm in the right place at the right time, making the right choices. Like it's all perfection, even though it's been messy and hard.
Right. And, in order to get to that point, right, where you can actually even hear that voice inside, you have to be selfish because that requires time and space and commitment to nurturing your relationship with your truth, with your true self, so that you can even have the awareness that that's the right decision for you.
Mm, yeah, it's true. Right. And I think that for women, especially, if we grant ourselves the time to feel and find and feel that connection, we would be making radically different choices in our lives.
No.
compared to, and I know, I think in your, when we first connected, you said you feel like there's this one area where women are really blocking themselves.
Mhm.
And so I would love for you to just talk more on that. Maybe we've already sort of covered it or talked around it, but
Yeah.
just
Well, I think, yeah, we're already kind of just talking about it. But the way that women block themselves is by not trusting themselves. And you don't trust yourself because you don't know yourself. And you don't know yourself because you've been conditioned to be selfless. You've been conditioned to abandon yourself and override your intuition and override your nervous system for everybody else. And whether that's through control or perfectionism or people pleasing or avoidance or hyper rational thinking or anxiety driven choices, that's what's blocking us. And that is the subconscious programs that have been embedded in our subconscious that are really running the show, like it or not. And then that creates an emotional experience, and then we take action. And so rinse and repeat. And then we wonder, why am I miserable? Why am I fearful? Why am I anxious? Why can't I do the scary thing I know I'm meant to do? Because deep down, it's not a matter of not knowing, I don't think. I think if so many clients come to me and I say, "What do you really want?" And they're like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "Yes, you do, but it's buried under all of this obligation, it's buried under all of this fear. It's buried under all of these patterns and habits and a version of you that is still operating in your life in a older, smaller way, let's say. So we've got to excavate all of the stuff that's covering that up so that you can start to listen again. And then you'll realize you already know what you want. You already know what you need to do. Like you said with your business decision, it's like you knew. But then it's the exciting choice of doing it. And that's the switch, right? That's the switch. I'm calling it the switch. That's new for me because I'm like, women I've been working with recently, when I get into like this identity piece, it's like this switch. And it's like, oh, like, wait, what is my real identity? Who am I really? And what does that version of me want to do here? And all of a sudden, we have access to choice and courage and, insight coming from within, but it's all in there. It's not like we got to go look for it. Like when I was, in my selfish year, it was like, it was all in there what I needed to do. But first, I had to just like excavate all of this shit that I'd been carrying around my whole life that said I didn't know. And that's that lack of self trust. So I guess that's what I would say is trust. If you know yourself and you trust yourself, then you are limitless. But that's the thing that's really, I think, blocking women.
yeah. And so if someone is watching, listening, and thinking, I really feel this, connect with everything they're saying. I want to cultivate a deeper level of self-trust. What would be something you would offer them to start to cultivate that on a practical level?
Well, it's kind of like any relationship, right? If you ask any woman like, what are the things you most want in a partner? They'll say, I want to trust them. I want to feel like they understand me, that they see me, that they know me, right? I want to feel safe. Hallmarks of a healthy relationship. Okay, do you have that with yourself? Do you trust yourself? Do you feel safe to be like sit still and be silent in a room by yourself and be with what's there? Are you spending time nurturing your relationship with yourself? Because self-love, self-trust is not just, it's not coming to your door like Amazon. Like we live in a world where it is daily eroding that. And we live in a patriarchy that is telling us not to trust ourselves as women. So like we got to do the work. But first I would say ask yourself that question. How am I being with my relationship with myself? Is that the most important relationship in my life? Or if like me, right, for 50 years, I really just ignored it. And I was a walking head, I call myself, like alive from the neck up, going through the motions of what I thought I should be doing in my life, achieving success externally, but dead inside.
Mm,
Okay, that's not a connection to self. That is not a self-led life, right? And so I'd say start with asking yourself some of those hard questions and then start journaling every day and take those questions and be like, what am I doing today that acts like I already love myself? What am I doing today that would act like I already know myself? And and start to like live in that space.
yeah.
You will start to get some really amazing insights.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, just spending time with yourself. One of my favorite assignments to give my clients, and this is usually when we're going through the process of, you use the word excavating, I use that too, of excavating their signature methodology, where
Right.
they've been doing work with clients, but they haven't really named or codified that
Mhm.
process yet. And I'm like, don't get away from your computer, stop trying to figure it out, go for a walk. I do recommend they bring their phone and just record and start talking.
Mm.
Talk out whatever you're working through. If journaling works, that's amazing. But I find that my processing really comes from speaking. And so I'll
Mhm.
just talk for like 20 minutes on a walk of whatever I'm trying to process, whatever I'm trying to download, whatever ideas are kind of half baked. I'll just talk it through. And then if I want to take it next level, I'll pull the transcript and then maybe use like ChatGPT or Claude
Yeah.
to reflect back to me. I'm like, without losing any of the threads, reflect back to me what I said here. Because I think sometimes we think we don't know, like you said, we think we don't know what we want. We think we don't have the decision made. We think we don't know the next step. And if we talk, we might feel like we're talking in circles. But then when we have that mirrored back to us, we're like, oh, look at that thread that kept
Yeah.
coming back really strong. I know what I want. And it's a beautiful way to spend time with yourself and to work on that clarity piece. I really enjoy that. It's something I use almost every week.
I love that so much, and it's finding what works for you, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
writing or speaking, and I've done that as well, and that's, I think, what's great for with, um, ChatGPT or Claude is that, it reflects it back to you in a way that's like, "Oh, wow, look at that, I didn't notice that." So I love that, and I think that, for the women you work with, right, and I work with a lot of coaches and, entrepreneurs as well. It's like if you want to stand out, right? We all know we got to stand out. We got to be visible. We got to be able to say things in a way that attracts the people we're meant to work with. You have to be willing to get uncomfortable enough to be visible and to actually let people see you. And if you are still performing from those masks, as I call it, they're not seeing you. They're seeing your mask of like performance. That's not going to resonate. And so it's like learning how to drop the patterns of self protection and learn how to actually be seen, which is a very vulnerable thing to do. And it requires a lot of being selfish because you have to actually like do that work to excavate and to be able to show up as your true self. And that's when you become magnetic. That's when you get those clients coming in, those dream clients, those opportunities. Um, but if you're just doing it like, "This is what I think I should do," to your point, right? It's like, it's gonna fall flat. So, yeah, whatever way you can do to start to get that connection going is is definitely what you wanna be doing, and, like, my first step always is you can't change what you can't see, so you've gotta see how you're blocking yourself. You've gotta see what those masks are, and we all have them. So let's not judge ourselves for them, but because it's not something we chose, it's a self-protection from childhood, but it's just still trying to protect you because you're doing things that are scary. But let's see what they are, and then let's learn how to unmask ourselves so people can see the true beauty, your true soul, your true message.
Mm. Yeah. Could you only imagine if women started showing up in a really big way of like dropping the masks, dropping the labels, dropping the expectations, and just focused on what they're here to bring and do and just be in the world? I feel like it's so beautiful because it has a ripple out effect. When you meet women, when you spend time with women who are like, light is on,
Yeah.
they're locked in, they're focused, they are like selfish in the beautiful way that you
Yeah.
define it. it gives everyone in their orbit permission to explore that for themselves and to
Mhm.
like let their light come on. So it just that's what gets me really excited about the women I work with, the communities that I'm a part of just being the change and seeing the effect that that has.
Yeah, women, we're being called to step up and do our work so we can change the world. And so we can start changing the distribution of wealth. And when women get wealthy, we help communities and families and and it's like we need to be doing that work though. And the work of evolution into that, like you said, and just being our true self. And that's what's exciting to me as well because it's still, I think, like, new for people, but for women who are ambitious and high achieving and they have big dreams, this is the call. You've gotta do this work on yourself because as you know, right, I'm sure it's like they say, if you wanna be an entrepreneur, welcome to the biggest self-development program you've ever signed up for.
Yeah, absolutely, right? It's like that and motherhood, being a parent, I'm just
Yeah.
like it's like yeah, it's the doctoral path of of soul your soul's
Like it or
journey.
not, right? And yeah, and so it's this call, I believe, for women to drop the masks that we've been taught we have to perform with and find that inner safety to be fully ourselves. And once you have that inner safety and that inner connection, then like the the inspiration starts to come, like you said, the creativity starts to come. And I created a whole methodology last year for my work from just being alone and being in that connected place, and it was radical, like a way deeper level than I've ever experienced of inspiration and, living it, right? It's like
Mhm.
when you live it and then you teach it, you have that authority that
Yeah.
is undeniable.
Yeah, it's all in integrity and people can feel that, right? They can feel when people on Instagram are marketing something that they don't really practice or feel, and
Yeah,
that they're just speaking it out. But when you're coming from that embodied place, it becomes, yeah, undeniable. So memorable and a category of one. Like no one else that can, not that I even really believe in competition, but it becomes irrelevant anyway because you're so in your self
yeah.
and bringing your soul's gifts to the world.
That took me a long time to learn, though. Did like, what about you?
I would say yes. I feel like in my 20s, my early 30s, that competitiveness was probably from school, of just like who has the best grades and who's getting chosen for this and voted for that. And so I think that carried over into my early years as a business owner.
Mhm.
And then as I started connecting with the women in my space and developing friendships and seeing and feeling the love and support that was there, I was like, "Oh, I don't feel like I'm racing against or that there's a limited amount. Like
Right.
there's more than enough and it's all complementary so often, right? There's no competition there."
Exactly. There's no competition. And yet, I think it's really easy to, and I still have to catch myself doing this of like, okay, but what do I think? What should I be doing right now? Like when I get scared or things are wobbly, it's like, okay, what should I be doing? And I get into the action. And then it's like, okay, come back to yourself and remember that like everything, all the answers are within. And it can feel easier sometimes to just like, oh, I'll do what she's telling me to do, or I'll take another course. I'll take another program that's going to tell me what to do, the magic pill, right? And it's really like, yeah, you can get all the information you want, but knowledge is not transformation. So it's the call to transform into this bigger version of yourself, which is the magic. That's finding the magic.
Yeah, that is. I love that. Okay, so I want to be respectful of your time. I know we've been chatting for a bit. Where can people connect with you, dive deeper into your world? I know we shared at the top, but I'd love for you to share again or share more.
Yeah. So you can find my podcast, The Selfish Woman, wherever you listen to podcasts, and you can get my book, The Selfish Year, wherever you buy books. And my website is valeriejones.ca, and you can go and check that out. I have a free quiz on there that you can take. It's called Reveal Your Mask, and it's really cool because it will show you the number one mask you tend to wear that is sabotaging you that you might not notice or you might not be aware of. And so it starts that process of revealing itself because we can't change what we can't see. So it's a great quiz to just start with like, okay, how am I getting in my own way? What is that pattern that I tend to fall into when I'm, afraid or struggling? And there's 8 different masks, so you'll see which one you tend to wear. So that's a free quiz you can take on my website.
So helpful. Yeah, that what a great way to start with the self-knowledge piece since we were talking about that.
Right, right.
Yeah, and I wanna do a quick shout out. Let's see some of the people we were with. Susan, Allison, Lisa, welcome, Phyllis, Colin. So good to have everyone who joined us. Thank you so much for popping on live. And if you want to dive deeper into my world, you can check out my website. There's lots of resources over there, CailenAscher.com. You can hang out with me over on Instagram, Cailen.Ascher, or of course here on Substack, The Self-Led Woman. I'm always, looking for amazing people like Valerie to have conversations with. I also do a lot of audio transmissions, written transmissions, all the things here, just really bringing everything in soul and strategy together for that heart led business owner. So, Valerie, thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks for having me. This was so fun, and I love everything you're doing as well. So good.
Thank you. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.